Hey everyone, welcome back to She Birds Podcast. I'm your host, Brooke Wright, and today's guest is Brad. Hi, Brad.
Well, hello. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you so much for being a returning guest.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, what inspired you to write Ashme's song? Am I pronouncing that right, or am I
That's how I
butchering?
know. That's how I pronounce it. I was
Okay.
One of the fun parts of being a writer is that you don't know how some of the words are pronounced until you publish it, and then you hear what people are calling it. And you're like, oh, okay, I guess that's it. Yeah, no, Ashme's song. Yeah. So the story behind that. So I've spent a long time writing that. It's sort of been kicking around since probably 2016 or so.
Oh.
It actually the inspiration came during the first Syrian refugee crisis, believe it or not. And during that time, all the refugees are coming into Europe, they're coming into America, and some news organizations of certain political persuasions, kind of made the comment that, like, look at all these young men fleeing their country. They should go back to their country and fight for their country. And I remember kind of thinking, as I was seeing all those headlines, that like it kind of feels like there's probably enough people fighting and dying for their country. Like, that's part of the problem, right? And it kind of got me thinking about like what is the nature of heroism? Is a hero somebody who does fight and die for their country, or is a hero somebody who like takes their family and gets out and goes to safety, right?
Right.
And yeah, I kind of wanted to explore that, and that's sort of that's the first step towards the novel. Ashme Song is that desire to kind of explore that space.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna mispronounce all of this stuff.
Please do. You will be. Please do. Yeah.
So, how did the idea of new, however you pronounce that?
Yeah.
So, do you know what I'm talking about though? Like
Yeah.
the questions asked you, say, how do you pronounce that? So I won't mispronounce it.
Yeah, I like that. Like there's a country of New, there's a country of Calum and New Uruk. Yeah, so you're probably talking about the country of New, like or something like that.
Yeah, it's like New Mitchell Tima. I think I'm
Oh
pronouncing
yeah,
it.
New Mesopotamia, New
Yeah.
Mesopotamia. Yeah, that's it, New Mesopotamia.
Okay.
So the name for that, like, it's Mesopotamia is like one of the first. I always kind of throw these things. I always kind of try to have that connection when I'm naming things in my novels. So Mesopotamia was like one of the very first civilizations, human civilizations that we have archaeological record for in the in the Fertile Crescent in the Middle East way back when. And so on this new planet, one of the countries is called New Mesopotamia. Like, you think New York, there in England, there's a city called York, and so this is how humans sometimes name things when they explore. They just take an old name and they put the word new in front of it, and boom, there you go. That's the name. That's the name for my city here. Because I know people get tired of coming up with new names. So yeah, that's the story behind that. New Mesopotamia. And then, of course, that's a mouthful. So everybody just calls them Mesos. Yeah, Meso. That's New Mesopotamia. That's a lot. That's a lot of syllables. So we'll just call these people Mesos for short.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
can you explain the significance of the term indigo child in the
Oh yeah.
story?
Yeah. Sure. And so it's a sci-fi novel, and I wanted to do some fun. So there's you have the inspiration for the novel, but then you have these other sci-fi ideas that you kind of want to bring in and sort of bring them all together. And so the idea behind Indigo Children. So on this planet, so this is just the setting. So the setting where this conflict is happening. The setting on this planet, thousands of years ago, the people of the planet, they created AI that went sentient and kind of took control, and then the AI just sort of built a bunch of rocket ships and left, and kind of left the humans by themselves. But they didn't leave the humans by themselves unchanged. They sort of modified the DNA of some people, and the people call these individuals indigo children. But they have the ability to interact with technology at a distance. They're like walking Wi-Fi, like they're like walking Wi-Fi centers. So, they can kind of walk into a room and they can just sort of, without actual any physical contact, without any other augmentation, they can just kind of connect with computer systems. So they make great hackers. Sort of, they live in this underworld. They make great hackers and computer systems specialists,
Ooh.
stuff like that. And so one of the main characters happens to be one of these indigo children. So the characters that I created to sort of explore this dynamic of what is heroism is, the main character, her name is Ashme, hence the name Ashme Song. And she's got a brother named Shen. And so a couple of generations ago, her people were conquered and overrun. But the winds of revolution are starting to blow. And so she's young. She wants to be part of this revolution. She wants to rise up and free her people and all those things. And she feels like she has something to actually offer, the revolution and the resistance, because she's one of these indigo children. So she's, a great computer systems specialist. She can hack things and so on. But she has a special needs brother. Her brother Shen has special needs, and she's the primary caretaker. So that's kind of that's the tension in here. So she's young. She wants to join this revolution. She feels she has something to offer, and she actually does have something to offer, the revolution with her skills. But, she's torn. Should I join the fight, or should I take my family and book on out of here?
Ooh. I
Yeah.
can see this being a movie like The Sixth Day, or like what's that movie I watched? Total Recall, or
Oh yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah. I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm with you. I agree completely. Yeah.
So what real world events or histories influence the setting?
So much. Yeah. So much. Yeah. Yeah. So when I first got the idea there, honestly, I say, it's taken a long time to write this story. I probably spent about the first year just educating myself on a bunch of things going on in the world. So the setting in the novel is an amalgam of a lot of current events and current history, unfortunately. So yeah, I did a lot of research. I was looking at regions where you have sort of a dominant culture overpowering and repressing a less dominant culture, right? And there's plenty of that all over the world. Like I come from Canada, and in Canada we have sort of the settler culture from the UK, and then you have the First Nations people who are kind of overrun. So you have those types of dynamics, and so you see that all over the world. So it's not inspired by any one culture or experience or event, but it's I spend a lot of time looking at, like, researching and learning and educating myself about these dynamics, and I kind of just pulled a lot of them from all over the place into this story to make this world. I I think I think the dynamics are very, very realistic. I think, yeah, all the ways that sort of the dominant culture represses the other culture are, like, they're not my creation. They're things that are happening today. They're things that have happened in modern times, in recent memory. So yeah. So,
Huh.
so where did I get the end? Yeah, so no one culture, but just the misery and tragedy that exists throughout the world. There's plenty of, sadly, there's plenty of examples of it. So
Man.
yeah,
So how did you envision the AI that altered Ashme's DNA? That's
you
neat.
know what? I left that very purposefully vague. Yeah, because you know. My thing, so the idea behind, and there's futurists that worry about this now, like AI. The language that they use is like AI will hit singularity. I don't know why they picked the word singularity, but it's like AI will get to a point where it can start improving itself, and then it just improve itself more and more and more and more, and it can do it so rapidly that all of a sudden, boom, it becomes this godlike intelligence.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, these, and I would imagine that if we encountered an intelligence that had done that, like, we probably wouldn't be able to understand much of what it's doing, right?
Mhm.
Like it would be unfathomable to us. And so, the idea with these AI, like, so this is still a concern in the world, right? Like this is still a concern. Like we have to keep AI locked down, otherwise it's going to hit singularity. Because sometimes what happens when these AI hit singularity is they, they do their own thing without really thinking about the importance of, like, are people important? So they'll just, they'll just break down an entire city for parts to create something, and like, what are they creating? And they don't seem to care about the people living there and stuff like that, just because they're at such this higher level.
Mhm.
So I envisioned the AIs being like ineffable, like non-understandable, and yeah, they just when an AI hits singularity in this world, it's this like total butt clenching kind of, oh my, like, is this guy gonna like care about us or not care about us, or like, what's this thing gonna do, right? And this, like, we're kind of helpless because it just shot off into like godhood like intelligence. um so yeah, that's I
Man.
left it a little bit of a mystery, like, the AI does these things and it leaves these, you know um, they're called orthostats. They're just these big, long, large blocks that just kind of float over cities. Nobody knows what they do. They're there. They created them and then they left. And you're like, what are they doing? Like, who knows? Nobody knows, right? Like, we can't figure it out. So I try to create a little bit of mystery, a little bit of mystery, and a little bit of danger and threat around them.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that sounds good. I
Trying
can't
to
wait to read this. Is it on audiobook yet?
Not on audiobook yet. Yeah, it's on digital, and so it's all like old fashioned reading. So yeah, digital,
Oh,
but you can do it digital, you can do it hard copy. Not on
ooh.
audiobook yet. I
Oh
would love it to be.
man.
Yeah, I
So
would love
is Ashme is such a character. What drew you to her story?
it. So that's interesting. Um so I needed to create, so a lot of times authors create the character that they need to tell the story, right? Usually it's like, okay, I need a character that has certain attributes to tell this story, right?
Mhm.
So I needed her to be sort of an age, and of a, sort of at a stage in life where she could legitimately join this revolution. But I also had to create a family dynamic and a family background so that it's a credible pull on her. Like, what should, like, it's credible that she wants to become a part of this movement, but it's also credible that she has these family obligations, and the tension is very real.
Mhm.
So I wanted to create that kind of a character.
Hmm.
Um, and you make choices. You make choices to try to just achieve certain types of, I don't know, vibes in your book. And you want to try to create, I don't know, I find like you also want to try to create oppositions, things that kind of, so where does this come from? So with Ashme, she's a young woman.
Mhm.
And you usually don't think of a young woman as wanting to go off and join the war. You usually
Mhm.
think of them as a caretaker, right? So
Mhm.
she's kind of bucking the trend there. She has this family member. Her family member, his name is Ganzer. Ganzer is this big, solid, lunk of a man, but he doesn't want to fight. He's a pacifist. He wants to get the family and get out there. And again, I feel like that plays against type. Like, normally you think like the big hulking guys, like, yeah, we're going to go fight, but he's the guy that's like, no, we got to get out of here. And so yeah, just sort of playing those oppositions, so there's like oppositions within opposition. So like in our culture, we tend to think of women as not wanting to fight, whereas she does. We think of the men wanting to fight, whereas Ganser doesn't. So they're
Yeah.
they're kind of opposite to type, and then they're opposite to each other, because Ganser's like, we should get out of here, and Ashmi is like, no, I think we should stay and fight. So sort of I wanted to create these like oppositions within oppositions, just to create kind of a cool dynamic, I guess, between the characters in the story.
Ooh, this sounds interesting. So,
Nice.
how did you balance Ashmi's desire to be a hero with her caregiver responsibilities? How did
Yeah.
you balance that out?
So a lot of it is um so so writers tricks. This is what writers do. You usually you kind of you set them up. So what writers usually do when you're creating a character arc, You create tension, you create conflict, and then at the start of the novel, you make them make choices that are the wrong choice. And then through the experience of the novel, they gain this experience and this life lesson. And then hopefully in a happy story, they make the right choice at the end. In a tragedy, they fail to learn their lesson. So I won't let you know which one this is. But so yeah, at the start, just so that you know, like at the start of the story, she is like she wants to join the rebellion. And again, how did I balance that? So she is the primary caretaker for her brother, but she's not the only family member. As I said, she has her cousin Ganser, and so it's not like she has a choice, right? She is sort of the only person that her brother has, but she could just kind of like ditch her brother with her cousin and then take off. So she has this feeling of obligation, like this feeling of wanting to look after her brother, but she has a choice. Like she could, like her brother would be okay with Ganser, and she could book off and join the fight and stuff like that, right? And then also to try to create, she's a young woman. She didn't like. Her parents are gone, their parents are gone. So she didn't choose this role. It was like, thrust on her. And she's sort of at that age where she wants to make a name for herself and make her own mark in the world. But she always like, no, I don't want everyone to define me as my brother's caretaker. I want to do my own thing. So she's kind of wrestling with those feelings, which I think are very genuine and real for somebody at that age. So yeah, she has these strong family sort of this, not obligations, like she has these strong family connections. Like her and her brother are really the only people that the only one who really knows her is her brother. Like they've gone through the same things together. So she has this really strong emotional connection. But she's like, yeah, I want to be something other than my brother's caretaker. There's all this fighting going on, and I want to like save my people. Like it's a just, in her mind, it's a just war. So yeah, I try to create that tension believably, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and she tries to balance it through. She kind of tries to get involved, and she's like, "Oh, maybe I'll just take my brother along," and it doesn't work so well. And yeah, like she kind of she just wrestles with that throughout until eventually she kind of has to make a choice, right? The situations get to the point where it's like, you know what, got to make a choice.
Man, so why did you choose this story to write a story focused on sibling dynamics? Like, what
Yeah.
made you choose that?
I don't know. It's interesting. So one is like they're actually twins. So and again, it's sort of like the sense of opposition, right? Like the twins, but one has these disabilities, the other one has these special abilities, right? Like she's an indigo child, and so there's sort of some oppositions there. They're fraternal twins, so it's like again, you have the sister and the brother. You have some oppositions there, and I wanted typically in a lot of stories when you're trying to create a dependent, like the main character has a dependent to look after. In most stories, they give that person a kid, right? Like that's the trope. You have the adult and they have a kid, and the world's the world's on fire, right? And I didn't want to do that, like, because I feel like it's been done and it's kind of cliche. So I wanted to create a different dynamic. So I made them brothers. I made them siblings, like twins. I made them twins, and made it special needs, because also I think that's also deserves storytelling as well. That people who have special needs deserve representation as well, and like they're part of the world, and like let's have that in the story. Like that's a key thing. That's a key element of this character's wrestle, right? So trying to create oppositions and trying to just not fall into cliches is kind of where eventually came to the sibling dynamics.
Yeah. So, were any of these characters inspired by real people that you know?
You know what? No.
No.
Okay. You know what? I shouldn't say that. The vast majority, most of them, no. But there was one character. So there's one character whose name is Mason. Now, Mason is actually a member of the conquering people, of the ruling people. And when I was originally envisioning the story, I was originally envisioning it like it's going to be a story of just like Ashme and her brother Shen, and just, it's going to be from their point of view. But I expanded it, and I created this point of view from a character from sort of from let's say from the ruling class there, right? And that character, I sort of was born out of my own experience. So I'm doing all this research about, sort of like various forms of like oppressive societies in the world, and where one group, one culture dominates another. And as I said, I come from Canada, and that exists in Canada as well. And when I started doing the research on this, this tells you something. When I started doing the research on this, my education system did not educate me on on the issues of First Nations people and Indigenous people when I grew up. Like that's, I think, is changing.
Yeah.
But for me at that time, this is just 2015, 2016. Like my education system taught me nothing about that. So I'm educating myself on these issues, and it's like I'm having my mind ripped open. I'm seeing things that I'd never seen before, or like just, and I started to realize, like, oh man, like the culture that I feel I'm a part of, I believe acted very unethically and acted against its own values, right? Like our culture has these values of like, like caring for people and like individual rights and stuff like that, and legal contracts, and like we threw all of that out of the window in our relationships, I think, with First Nations and Indigenous groups throughout our history. And I'm seeing this, and I'm like educating myself and seeing this for the first time, and I was like, oh my God, this is like, what have we done, right? But then it's like man, but it's like what? How do you fix that? Like, how do you fix that? Like, how do you fix that? How do you make that okay? Like, how do you fix that? And just I remember sort of wrestling with that, just like my own self, like wrestling with that. Like, I'm a part of this. I have this really privileged life. Like we have hospitals and grocery stores, and I have all this education. I have this really privileged life, but it's built on sort of these acts of actions that are totally against all the values that I grew up with.
Right.
How do you make that right? And like, I don't know. And so that character Mason was born out of that straw. I'm like, I want a character that sort of goes, that like has that experience, right? Like he's a member of the ruling class and he knows this thing, but then as things go on, he's like, well, wait a second, what we're doing isn't right here. How do I fix this? I don't know how to fix it. I don't know what to do. So that's kind of the character of Mason, is really kind of based on my own just journey through that as well, right? And yeah, there you go. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So one major question in the book is how to stop the echo of violence.
Yeah.
What answer does the book offer without giving it away? I know you don't want to give away like the big thing, but
yeah. So it's like so it's sort of a theme that runs through the book, is like violence has an echo, right? So like violence creates violence. You do wrong to somebody, they do, they're hurt, and so they, out of vengeance, they do wrong to you, and now you're hurt, and so you get in these cycles of violence. And it's like, how do you break that? Like silence has this echo, and it just keeps reverberating through time. And like, how do you break that? And honestly, the way you break this, like the only way you break the cycle is like you need people on both sides of that cycle. You need enough people. You need a critical mass of people on both sides of that cycle of violence who choose to step away from it, who choose to just choose to forgo vengeance, and to just choose to choose hope for the future rather than sort of vengeance for the past, right?
Yes.
And like, it's not easy, but like I can't think of any other way, right? Like you just need people to choose to like, I'm going to break the cycle, right? I'm not going to perpetuate it to the next generation. Which is hard, which is hard because as I say, you need a critical mass of people on both sides, and it just takes one Yahoo on one of the sides to do something boneheaded, and then all of a sudden, it kind of all falls apart again, right? But that's like, if there's another way to break that cycle, I would love to hear it. But I think it's just this: people need to choose to step away from it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, is there a message you hope readers take away about the activism and the personal responsibility?
Yeah. Is a bunch, probably a bunch of messages. Like one is like, each side has a story, right? Each side has a story. Each side has a story where they're the heroes, right? Each side, like, there's no side that's like, we're the evil villain and we're gonna crush these people. Mwaha. Like, nobody tells themselves that. Each side has a story where they're the hero. Um, and I think a very important first step is to understand the story of the other side, right? Because
Right.
the stories you tell yourself shape your reality, right? The stories you tell yourself limit your reality.
Mm-hmm.
For example, let's say I talked about my education, right? Taught me nothing of our relations with the Indigenous peoples of Canada.
Hmm.
There's a blind spot, knew nothing about it, right? The stories we tell ourselves give us blind spots. They tell us what we see, and it creates this darkness outside of it that we don't know about. And so I think the first step is like listening to the stories of the other side, and then all of a sudden you can sort of see more. You see more. You can sort of see your actions in a broader context. I think that's important. Yeah. And then that's probably where I'd start. And it's just the we I think another thing that's important to remember is that a lot of the hurt we cause each other, I think, is caused out of fear. Like we're like I have, I'm afraid, I'm scared, therefore I lash out. Like, I think
Yeah.
this person's going to hurt. I think this person's going to hurt me. I think they're going to take my wonderful life away.
Yeah.
I better defend myself, right? And then they're
Yeah.
like, oh, this guy's coming at me,
So
like
they
I'm scared, my life's
retaliate.
in danger. I better push back, right?
Yeah.
So much of it comes out of fear. I think so much comes out of fear and pain. And yeah, again, if you just
Man.
just sit down. Learning
Yeah.
more of other stories can, I think, help reduce that fear. And
Yes.
you know
Yes. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So was there a scene or a chapter that was hard for you to write?
let's yeah, a couple. And it's like, it depends what you mean by hard. Technically hard, or like emotionally hard. um Yeah, I don't want to give anything away, but there's a couple of chapters where there's some like emotion, like where there is pain and fear, where there's some emotional things that happen. That you know, it's not like it was like difficult to write, but it's like you're sort of going through a
Right.
process. Like, you have to. Um, I feel if you want to create an emotion in a story, like, it has to go through you and onto the page. So it's like you kind
Yeah.
of go through that emotion as you're kind of writing it out. Like, you have to feel connected to it. So
Yeah.
there's a couple of scenes like that I think are kind of big and heavy scenes that
Yeah.
kind of had to bring it into me and then bring it out as you're doing it.
Yes. Yes. So where can my listeners find your books?
Pretty much wherever you buy books, you can buy. Okay, so one here, I'll plug the publisher, Shadowpaw Press, shadowpawpress.ca. You can buy it from the publisher's website, both digital and hard copy, I believe. You can also buy it wherever you buy books, like Amazon, Kobo, Barnes and Noble, all those places, wherever you buy books. It'd probably be online. So probably you go to the bookstore's website. You should be able to. Let's say hard copy or digital copy, Kindle, Kobo, PDF, all the choices.
Nice, nice. Okay. Hopefully you have it on audiobook soon so I can take a listen to
That'd be
it.
I know, right? I know, right? Yeah. I'm a big fan of accessibility and like just different ways of making different media there. So I would love to. It's always like it's always a money thing. It's always a cost thing, right? But I'd love to.
So I want to thank you so much, Brad, for coming back on my
You bet.
podcast, being a returning guest, and
Yeah.
chatting with me.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me again. Always fun. Always fun. Yes, great questions. I love it.
All right. You have a great day. Thank you.
Cheers, everyone.
Bye. Hey everyone, I want to thank you all so much for listening to my interview with Brad. You can purchase his books where he said you can purchase his books and check them out. Thank you all so much for listening. See you next time for the next interview. Bye.